Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we're back to have another conversation with someone who's working to change our world for the better, to make it sustainable and environmentally responsible. You know, the recent flood of interest and press coverage about sustainability has created an opportunity to get more people thinking and acting sustainably. But we're still in the early days of a transition from an extractive, inefficient economy in which we are really, the only way to characterize it is sustainably naive, to becoming sustainable natives, accustomed to considering and reducing our environmental impact every day. It's a little like the transition from what life was like before the internet and after. A lot of folks had to grow into the internet, but people who have grown up with the internet are digitally native, and we're working to create a sustainably native society today. Our guest today is Brian Ringer, founder and CEO of Seattle-based Emerald Technology Group, which recently launched the GetGreen app. It's a coaching tool for green living. And by the way, here's a disclosure: GetGreen does feature some Earth911 articles and links in the environment, and we appreciate that, but we want you to know there is a business relationship. GetGreen offers a catalog of sustainable actions one can take to reduce their impact. For example, it suggests fixing rather than buying a smartphone, and users can opt into that mission. And once they record that commitment and follow through, they can come back, get additional information, and ultimately awards points called leaves for each commitment they complete. That lets you, those leaves, let you support climate projects with funding. The interesting feature of this experience is that GetGreen quantifies the impacts that your leaves will have. For example, donating 280 leaves to Sea Trees kelp restoration results in enough carbon captured to offset 8,400 hours of watching television. I have about 15 leaves after a week of use. So there's a lot to learn about living sustainably, and we can find out how GetGreen can help. You can learn more about the GetGreen app at getgreen.eco. GetGreen has no dash, no space, getgreen.eco. Welcome to the show, Brian. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And usually we get together at Mariners games and sit and talk, but here we are online. Let me ask this. I've asked you before, but what inspired you after a long career in technology? You were the CTO of Napster, and you were also at Real Networks for about 7 years. What inspired you to launch a sustainable living app?
Yeah, great question. Well, the biggest piece of it was really when you look at what's happening, what's going on with the environment and what's happening with climate change in particular, that was a really strong call to action. And for me personally, I definitely felt that pull, as I think a lot of people feel that pull that, something big is happening. We need to do something about it. And so with GetGreen, we're focused on one part of the battle against climate change. That's activating individuals to really get involved, to start taking steps, to doing individual things, not waiting for someone else to come and solve the problem, but stepping in themselves, changing the way that they live, the things that they do. And we think that's a really important part of the overall solution. And one thing that I learned from all the years in the tech industry was the power of software and technology to really be widely adopted, to change the way people work. You mentioned an example of the internet, for example. My background is all in music streaming. When we first launched a lot of the music streaming services, Napster, Rhapsody, that was a strange thing to people. Now it's all very native, as you say. That's the only way that people would listen and consume music. And so we thought that was a really good analogy for what we could maybe do with sustainability. Take a lot of people's sort of good instincts there and then make it, hey, this is just the way we do things and the way we work and operate now.
So the GetGreen app is available on the iOS and Android platforms, so you can download it on the App Store or Google Play. What happens during the first session? How does somebody get started with the app?
Yeah, good question. So we try to make it really easy to get started. That's been the key premise, is we want people who have sort of positive intentions but haven't yet to turn them into actions. So there's no big math at the start. You don't go through a big carbon footprint calculation for yourself. We want to get you just right away into start adopting new kind of what we call climate positive behaviors. So you go through a very basic onboarding flow. We ask you a couple of things about, areas that you might be interested in. Changing, things around the house, kind of your daily activities, maybe the type of food that you eat, maybe the way that you get around, recycling, some of these things, and ask you a couple questions about what you might be doing now. And then right away, we give you back a series of recommendations. Hey, great. Based upon this, here's some things that we think make sense for you that you could hop in and start to work on right away. And then those are our what we call recommended actions. And as you mentioned, for each action, we try to describe clearly what is it, what do you have to do to complete it, and then what impact does it have, which we measure in terms of the number of leaves that you earn as a kind of reward credit for completing that action.
So, what kind of early engagement are you seeing? Are people getting in and focusing on a few actions, or do they start collecting a whole bunch of actions and then working their way through the list?
Yeah, what we're seeing right now is that people get engaged right away, and which was our hope.
Mhm.
As they come and we give them things which are doable, they're tractable, they make sense to them, and they can get in and do them right away. And then almost immediately, users in that first session they accept a number of these actions, and then they try to complete some right away. So they'll start to do things. And then after that, they start exploring out. And so they'll start to go through the fuller catalog and they'll see, hey, I did this one and here's other similar type actions. So they'll get into some things, to start with that are things they can do quickly in a given day. Hey, I'm going to maybe, shift a little bit of my eating to more of a low carbon type diet. I'm going to set up a basic recycling type thing. I'm going to look into some interesting sort of home products. And then they start to go out and really start to kind of engage and discover a lot more things. And so we see users very heavily focused on some of these kind of easy things you can do right away. And now we start to see this longer tail
Right.
of people kind of exploring deeper in the catalog. Actually, once again, very similar to music streaming, which was a great discovery vehicle. You get in, you listen to a few songs, and then you start to discover all these other great, bands, artists, things like that. Very similar type things. People get in, they click on a few things, they accept them, and then they start to really explore out to the breadth of the catalog.
So there's a long tail of activities that obviously are going to need to be built out over the course of time, because you go from these more general kinds of things to specific and granular steps you can take that will vary from person to person too. Because for instance, a lot of the things that are on the first few screens I've done. So I quickly, I said, yeah, I've done that. I have an EV. I don't eat meat until dinner time every
Yeah.
day, and stuff like that. How do you see two things? One, gamifying this more. Clearly, leaves are a way to say I'm doing a good job, and extending the kinds of things that GetGreen can help people accomplish.
hmm Yeah, good question. So, a couple pieces I would say on that one. So, we really are trying to get you exposed to more things. So, starting with kind of foundations, just help to understand. Hey, and I think that's one thing which is maybe an eye opener for some people. Because when you think about living sustainably, a lot of people think, oh, okay, I have to make these sort of larger changes in my life,
Yeah.
or change, the type of house I live in, or where I live, or the way I get around, or the car I have. And I think that not realizing, hey, 25-30% of sort of global emissions are tied to the food supply chain. You get to make a decision 3 times a day, over what you're going to do there. A lot of it is the products you buy, the packaging of the products, the things you use around your house. You're making multiple decisions a day there as well too. So it's a combination of getting people engaged with those early things, giving them some background. So we have a bunch of what we call the learn about actions there. So you take time and you learn a little bit about the climate impact of the food you eat, the climate impact of traveling and transportation. And then that sort of opens up the doors to other things. Oh, now I understand things I can do around the house. What's really, most important? I realize, okay, heating and cooling, really important from an energy perspective. What can I do there? Hey, if I focus on some of the efficiencies of the way my house runs and operates, that's a great place. That's a really great place to start. And then those things lead into, hey, here are maybe some interesting products which you can use, some some weatherizing type things for your house and other things you weren't aware of. And then that just sort of keeps kind of expanding sort of the circles of things that people can be engaged in.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen in the way people interact with this information is they tend to share it. And the leaves are a great sort of umbrella way of understanding how you rank in the whole community. Do you imagine starting to create individual challenges or group challenges that people could share so that they could also create sub-communities to focus on particular issues?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as I look at sort of, the data that we see in the application, and, the application's only been out for a month. So, we're kind of reading sort of early patterns as we can out to the public for a month. I'd say, we're seeing a couple different things. The first insight is people are doing a lot of these small daily decision type actions that I mentioned. I think that's an opportunity for people. There's so many things that they can do just in kind of their current run of life and immediately start to make an impact. The second insight is they start to see these bigger things, changes to their home, and they realize, okay, that's a little bit of a process. You need a little bit of guidance through that. And then the third thing is what you just mentioned, that people really want to share what they've done. They want to interact with the community and see what's happening. And some of the pilot projects, which I can talk about a little bit as well, like we're doing one with the University of Washington, it's set up actually as a challenge. The students are competing amongst themselves to see what happens. And there's prizes and rewards for the people who have completed the most action and earned the most leaves. And you can share out, hey, here's where I am on the sort of leaderboard, for example.
So is that a GetGreen app, or is it a private labeled version of the GetGreen app for UW students? And does that community then connect to the bigger community?
Yeah, it's so they're all part of it's the GetGreen app. And basically what we do is we make some small customizations in the app for each different community. And so, for example, for the University of Washington, we added in a number of actions which are very specific to the student population there. So there's one around, hey, there's e-recycling in the student hub, the Husky Union there. Here's a bunch of other alternative, maybe they're vegetarian type restaurants either on campus or near campus, or upcycling type opportunities, or to reuse things that are scattered around campus, or volunteer type things. So it's the same GetGreen app. They can see all the other users there. It's been customized for them. So we know when they come in, they're part of this cohort, and then they'll see those specific actions there.
So for instance, you could sell a version of the app for a large organization that wants to encourage its employees or members to be more sustainable. Is that part of your business model?
That's absolutely part of the business model. And that's where we're actually seeing a lot of interest now, just really out of the gate, is for organizations that are launching sustainability plans or programs, and they want to really get the employees involved here. And this is something which I have some personal experience with, and sort of answers your first question, kind of how the tech led me back to sustainability.
Right.
One of my roles at Real Networks, we set up a sustainability division, which I ran for the company there. And we computed a carbon footprint model for Real Networks, the scope 1, the scope 2, et cetera, emissions. But then after you finish that, the immediate logical question is, okay, we kind of know, but what are we going to do about it? How are we going to really go and start to do something and lower the impact? And the way that happened was we had an employee base who was super energetic and super engaged, and we were, very transparent with them. Here are things that you can start to do, both in your home life, but then at work here, to lower the carbon footprint of the company. And it was all sort of done manually. And that was sort of the seed which was planted. Hey, wouldn't it be great if there was a way that you could sort of lead, the employees of the company, help them through a process to really kind of have them working interactively to achieve the same overall goal for a company?
So one of the interesting issues around that kind of organizational approach, which I think is really well targeted, is that the organization may have specific and unique things that could be done internally. Are you helping them identify that and then bring that into the app in any way, or does that require too much consultation at this point?
Yeah. So what we try to do, we have our base catalog of all these different actions that we bring in. So everyone gets access to this base catalog. And then we do, as you say, work specifically with the organization to look at the things that they think are important to them. And sometimes, there's a common set with a lot of, I'll just focus on businesses, for example. There's a lot of things around business travel or even commuting, or just, sometimes, if they run their own cafeteria, you can direct people to different food choices in the cafeteria, or the type of materials they use in the cafeterias, or things like that. Those are fairly straightforward to come and do. A lot then wind up to be specific. And so there we have to really work with the organization. Hey, okay, what can we do around the shipping that you do? And you can do your shipping more efficiently. How about in the warehouse and things like that? Okay, we can turn those into specific actions that are in the application for then your users and employees to do and execute on.
That's interesting because it also gives you more generic models that you can propagate to other organizations and also say, this is working for some big companies, try it yourself.
Exactly. And that was a key sort of decision and design point for us early on, was the solution needed to be customizable. And so it's customizable with the collection of actions that you have inside of it and what can be done. There's another concept in the application of setting goals. You can earn badges or rewards. So if you complete a collection of actions, so those are customizable. And then even the projects, that people want to support. Maybe an organization has an existing relationship, within a local environmental group, and things can be funneled there. Like, for example, the University of Washington, all the leaves the students are earning are going to support a campus sustainability fund, for example.
Oh, okay. So it's going right to a local issue rather than sent somewhere else. That's interesting.
In that case, exactly, yes. And, we're able to work that out. And, and once again, in that case, we had someone who was on the board of the UW Honors Group who said, I'm going to, for all the positive actions that users do, I'll help to match those and turn those into carbon removal directly as well, too, supporting back into the university.
So the other element of your business model seems to be a form of advertising. For instance, in the fix, don't replace a smartphone action, you recommend iFix as a resource. Is that a paid placement?
So let's see. As you say, there's basically two revenue streams in the application. The first one is what we just described, doing customized versions of the application for different businesses, and there's an operational fee and a kind of a configuration fee. And then the second one is direct to consumers, where they can go and they can sign up for a $5 a month tier called GetGreen Plus.
Okay.
Which we haven't released yet in the application. We will actually coming up in the next month here. And so that's a direct $5 a month subscription, and the money from that goes to whatever projects that you support. And we do, as you say, there's a lot of sustainable product recommendations that are in there. We do have affiliate relationships with some of those products that are there. To answer your question specifically, we don't do paid placement, so there's no one who comes and pays us and then their product gets featured. So we have a separate kind of content and curation team and product team. They figure out what are the best products. Often they're ones which we've used directly inside of the company, the ones we recommend, and those are flagged actually as a GetGreen featured. You can see they have a little GetGreen featured in there. But there's no direct paid placement type things. We're just trying to find the best products for you and the things which can make the best difference.
That's great to know. I mean, that arm's length relationship between where the money is flowing and the recommendations is really critically important. How large is the team?
The team is about 12 people. We're primarily based here in Seattle. We're fairly geographically diverse, though. So there's a core group here in Seattle. We've got a handful down in California, which is including some of our sort of environmentally, focused expert type people are based down there in California. And we've actually got a couple people working on the development side who are based in Europe, in Portugal and Croatia.
Okay. Now tell us more about how the leaves play a role in funding climate projects. The app explains the environmental impact directly, but what is a leaf worth? And essentially, what percentage of GetGreen revenue will flow to restoration projects?
Yeah, so the leaves, as you say, they serve sort of a dual purpose. So you can use them both to sort of track your individual progress and set your own goals. So you can set an internal goal of, I want to earn 10 leaves a week or 40 leaves a month, something like that. And each leaf is equivalent to 10 pounds of avoided carbon emissions.
Okay.
So everything, that's sort of the math when you see it in there. And we have to make some kind of breaks. This is not exactly 10, so you're not earning fractions of leaves, but that's basically the sort of leaf economy, is you're awarded one leaf for each 10 pounds of averted carbon emissions. And then those leaves then, that, as you say, when you earn them, if you're in a premium tier, either because you signed up directly for yourself, or maybe your company has given a subscription to everyone inside of the company as part of their overall sustainability efforts, those leaves can then be exchanged to support carbon removal projects. And we have a series of projects in there, globally. There's a lot of Red Plus type nature projects, deforestation, prevention of deforestation or forest management across Africa and Asia. We have some local projects. There's a kelp forest project down in California, or we can add other projects like we did with the University of Washington. And the exact value of how much does your leaf turn into, we try to kind of match it. So for every leaf you earn 10 pounds of avoided emissions for yourself, we want to also remove an additional 10 pounds. So the exact value of the leaf winds up sort of being determined by what's the price of tonnage of carbon for an individual project. But it basically sort of comes out to sort of a one-to-one. So each leaf you earn, you're also removing that. You're removing that same amount of carbon as well, too, if you're a premium member.
And so potentially, as we get more efficient in carbon sequestration and the cost of carbon starts to fall, you could sequester even more for every leaf.
Exactly, you would for sure, and that's the advantage as the price of carbon starts to fall. And we've chosen right now on the projects that we have in the application primarily these sort of nature-based projects, which are the more efficient right now in terms of the cost of carbon. We haven't added in, there's other ones you can do, industrial type projects or renewable energy type projects as well too. And so I think we'll look to add in those two as well as as the prices continue to fall there and to come down.
Yeah, the other thing I was intrigued by is the city version of GetGreen that you're doing. For instance, Duluth, Minnesota has a citizen climate action plan version of the app. What's involved in getting a city onboarded, and how do you, once somebody is in the city program, how do you know they're in the city, or could just anybody join Duluth's program?
Yeah. So we're really excited about this one. And as you say, working in cooperation with a group called Equilibrium 3, who's a Minnesota-based nonprofit, and it was all put together actually by a Minnesota-based clean energy accelerator called Grid Catalyst that we're working with. And the city of Duluth, Equilibrium 3 helped the city of Duluth basically build, as you say, a citizens climate action plan, which existed through on a website and kind of listed a bunch of, hey, things that you could be doing there. And they had set some goals for what they were trying to get the overall city of Duluth to. And I think when we started talking to them, they around, hey, we can help you to take that plan, that exists on the website and turn that into a series of actions in a nice kind of interactive mobile application. And the app will let the users track directly and earn their points and rewards for it. I think it kind of really clicked with them as a way to really activate their plan. And then the users will earn rewards, for that, which could range from things like, bus passes to other recognition to other type things as well.
Well, that's great. The incentive programs, I think that you could link to that, are really interesting because you could start to change behaviors in the entire community, not just with the Green app, the GetGreen app users.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea, is that it starts to go broader. And like you say, in this case, we look at your zip code when you come in and figure out if you're in the city of Duluth. And so, and then because we'll extend our GetGreen catalog with a lot of specific things that are relevant for the city of Duluth. Like they have, for example, there's a community sustainable agriculture, or a CSA program where you can buy food directly from the farmers, for example. So that's a big one. So we'll add that in. They do free home energy audits. And so you can earn leaves if you do a free home energy audit that's provided by the city of Duluth. And so they'll have the opportunity to do those, those extra actions, which are all very relevant to them, to share those out, to let other people in the city of Duluth see what's happening. And then, the idea is you really start to build that sort of community momentum, exactly as you said.
It's interesting because, in our way, we are a switchboard for recycling solutions. People find us to find out how to recycle or to make a sustainable living decision. And it seems like there are going to be a lot of these switchboards emerging over time. How do you see this business evolving? Is it going to be a lot of companies, or do you think it will ultimately be a few companies which roll up all of these different sources of information? Because we are very early in this transition.
I think very early is exactly right. And it feels like right now you have, much more sort of, good intentions, that people have, and they want to do the right thing. I think that's really good news. You see just, the percentage of people who really kind of get what's happening with climate change and want to do something that's sort of steadily risen, 30, 40, now 50, 60, we see in some demographics, 70% kind of want to do something. And, tens of thousands of companies every year are launching sustainability programs as well, too. So I think the intentions are sort of there. There's really a lot of information out there. So I think that, to see these sort of aggregation of information coming together, we have people who are sort of the true experts in there, and to make that information available to people through these platforms, of which, we think GetGreen can really be one of those platforms that really starts to engage people and provides them a way to get the information into them in an easy, efficient manner. So, them having to do less work, it's kind of all there, presented, nicely packaged. We feel like that's kind of our role, is sort of to be this aggregation platform of these different information sources and package them in easy, actionable ways for end users.
Well, look, it's good to be working with you on this, and we're pleased that you feature our stuff. What's next for GetGreen?
Well, we've got a lot to do. As I mentioned, we're only a month into the launch.
Oh, come on! You should be done by now.
I'm going to remind the development team of that. Hey guys, we should be done with this by now. So there's a couple things. We really want to start to kind of build out the we call it the sort of content catalog, of the different actions more. So, for example, we have, we started. I think we've got some interesting things around food and dining, but we try to take everything is done in sort of a positive manner. So there's not just recommendation that says, hey, you should eat less red meat. There's recommendation that says, hey, try this really delicious alternative instead. And we can really start to go and expand those out and give people alternatives, so they're very actionable type things. So, to build out those areas, we have a really small pets category right now, which, into the carbon footprint of a, Western European, Northern American pet is actually pretty high, So there's a lot you can do there, for example.
Yeah.
To build out areas like that, a health and wellness section, which we've dabbled a little bit. There's so much you can do around, fashion and, moving away from fast fashion and more sustainable products and kind of your daily routines there. So a lot to do to sort of build the content catalog. And then really, trying to work on distribution and getting the app in more people's hands through more cities, more municipalities, more organizations, and really try to reach those large scale impacts.
I'm curious, as you use the app, what are your favorite actions so far? What do you feel like both surprised you and made the biggest difference?
That's a good question. Well, I'm very close to it, so.
Sure.
But there's a lot of things in there. There's so much great stuff in there now. I've probably personally done less than a quarter of the actions myself. The things that, that are my favorites personally, I love a lot of, that needs the techie part of me. I love a lot of the kind of cool new sustainable products which are out there. I just switched out all of our backyard lights to solar lights, super nice, easy, no wires, no nothing. It just runs from the sun and that's it, and so it's kind of cool to see that. I love a lot of the little smaller solar, gadgety type things. So I think we'll always, we'll continue to promote and feature those kind of things. Things like, we recommend wool dryer balls, for example. They're an easy thing you buy. They're kind of fun. You toss them in the dryer. They, helped improve the energy efficiencies there. We've had just dozens and dozens of comments back on those just right away that people love them and it's a great idea. So people seem like they're really attracted to those kind of things as well. So I think those are some of my personal favorites and what we're seeing from the users as well too. So.
Well, Brian, I want to thank you for taking some time to talk with us today. And of course, everybody check out the GetGreen app.
Thank you very much, Mitch. It's been great. Yes, and as you say, we'd love to have you download, install, and use the app and become part of the GetGreen community and working together to make a positive difference here.
We've been talking with Brian Ringer. He is the founder and CEO of Seattle-based Emerald Technology Group, maker of the GetGreen app. And you can find out more about the GetGreen app, download it as well, at getgreen.eco. GetGreen, no space, no dash, getgreen.eco. Folks, take some time to learn what you can do. We know all of you reading Earth911 have taken a lot of steps, and we appreciate everything you do for the planet and for your own personal health and safety and the family that you are raising today and many generations to come. Sustainable thinking and native sustainability, where we actually literally think about the environment before we do things rather than later on, like maybe a century and a half after we invent combustion engines, is going to be good for the planet. So let's try to make some progress, and GetGreen can help you do that. Do check it out on both the Play Store, Google Play Store, and the Apple App Store. This is Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear, and I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. We're going to be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, please take a few minutes to share this podcast or one of the many that we have done in the past to get folks thinking about more ideas to create less waste. This is our mission, our generation's mission to save ourselves and the planet. And do come back for our next conversation. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.